Hey, everybody, I'm Will Selva from NFL Network and Good Morning Football.
And I'm MJ Acosta Ruiz from the NFL Network, and we are back with a brand new season of El Huddle. Each week, Will and I break down some of the biggest news stories and talk to the biggest names from around the game.
Each episode will highlight what stories, matchups, strategies we're looking forward to in the upcoming week.
No fluency required. We got you. We're your tutors in Espanol. All you need is a love of the game and la cultura.
Listen to El Huddle on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You are listening to the Dan Patrick Show on Fox Sports Radio.
How's morale? Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. How was your weekend? The highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly. A week from today, we'll be at the Fountain Blue in Las Vegas. Chiefs will also be out there, and San Francisco 49ers. We usually spend this day, and usually after playoff games, we'll talk about the teams that lost. We spend a lot of time talking about the Lions, also the Ravens, and later in the week, we'll spend more time talking about the teams that are going to the Super Bowl. The Niners are favored by 1. It'll probably stay that way. Most of the sports books don't think that Kansas City will be favored going into the Super Bowl. Not that Patrick Mahomes cares. When he's an underdog, it feels like he's even more dangerous. He wins outright. A lot of people had the Lions money line yesterday. Most common bet, the Lions beating the Niners straight up. What happens is we bet emotionally. People in Vegas who make money as gamblers, they don't let emotion factor in. You had people who they wanted Baltimore in because they didn't want Kansas City in. That's not a good strategy. Hey, I'm going to take the Lions. It's a better story. Now, for me, content-wise, the Lions winning yesterday, that's a better story. The Lions going to the Super Bowl is a better story than San Francisco. San Francisco does have star power there. But the Lions in that story, and if they could get to a Super Bowl, if they could win a Super Bowl, if they would beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. The Ravens at home, 2-time MVP, and you can't really muster much offense there. Kansas City's defense is even better than what we thought. It wasn't about Patrick Mahomes yesterday. It was about Travis Kelce. It was about Isaiah Pacheco. It was about that defense. But Mahomes just sort of fills in. Where there's a crack here, I got to fill in, put some putty over there. You know, it's just whatever you need him to do. Scramble to make a big play. Take what is there for you know, not forcing those things. Lamar Jackson was forcing things and did not play well at all. And I kept wondering, at what point does John Harbaugh say to Lamar Jackson, Lamar, just go. Just go. Whatever you feel, whatever you think, you don't have to, abide by Todd Monken's offensive game plan here. Let's go. We gotta get it going now, or we're going to be left behind. And he stayed in the pocket. There were times when he could have run, and I still don't understand that. If that's what you do, I got to ride you as long as I can. Like Cam Newton was not going to beat you from the pocket. He could certain times, but I wanted Cam to be Cam. Michael Vick to be Michael Vick. Steve Young would do that too. Like, take it, go, put pressure on them. I never felt like Kansas City had pressure. That defense had pressure on them. But with Lamar Jackson, I mean, I got football's Steph Curry. Put pressure on him. Make him do something. Maybe make a mistake there. And I never felt like Kansas City thought, we got to make sure we stop Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Pauline.
And I know it's the other game, but Brock Purdy went that direction. He ran the ball 6 times yesterday. I looked it up. He averages 2.4 rushing attempts per game. He ran way out of his mind because of the situation. He didn't slide because of the situation. Lamar Jackson, tackling him's got to be the toughest thing in sports.
I would think it would be one of the tougher ones. You put him out in space. The Chiefs currently underdogs in the Super Bowl. 3rd straight game in which the Chiefs will be the underdog. Patrick Mahomes 9-3 outright as an underdog.
Start of the day, 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 start of the day.
Stat of the day brought to you by Panini America, the official trading cards of the Dan Patrick Show. By the way, just in time for Valentine's Day, We restocked with some of our more popular flavors of moonshine. Salted caramel is awesome. Peppermint as well, which is basically chocolate in a bottle, available at danpatrick.com. All right, Seton, poll question. Recap hour 1, and what's the question we're going to go with? Hour 2.
Well, I'm not sure if we could go. We got options for hour 2.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure if you're going to love it. Dan Campbell and the Lions repeatedly going for it on 4th down on Sunday instead of going for a field goal. Bad decision, good decision, bad result. Mm-hmm. Right now, 57% of the audience have that as a bad decision. Mm-hmm. That's not overwhelming.
No, because I think it was, once again, I'm going to trust the coach more than I am myself. But if you're going on analytics, that's what I don't know. What role did analytics play? I want analytics to be something I consider. I don't want it to be the rule or this is the law. This is what we're going to do. But if this is who you are and you're confident where you are, the play you're going to call, and San Francisco did a good job adjusting to that. Yes, Seton.
So we have another option here for you.
Okay.
More disappointing end to the season, Lions or Ravens?
Ravens at home.
Ravens had arguably the best team in football.
Yeah.
And should have advanced. They should have.
Yeah.
That's got to be pretty disappointing rather than, or I'm not saying as opposed to or whatever, but there's a certain level of expectations there for sure that this was the year. The Chiefs are down. We're rolling.
Yeah, I don't know if we look at the Ravens losing as crushing as we do the Lions, because the Lions were up by 17, but on the road, whereas the Ravens really never got into it where it felt like it was a crushing loss.
But that's exactly the problem. I'm not necessarily saying that the Ravens was as crushing, but it's definitely disappointing. You guys no-showed in that game.
Yeah.
You have one of the most explosive offenses you could possibly imagine. Your defense is phenomenal, and you guys no-show in that game?
Yeah. Yeah, it still feels like it's the Lions that they would win that as opposed to the Ravens. But, the Ravens had blown out people. They won quite a few games by double digits. They went to San Francisco, beat them. Like they weren't afraid of anybody. And you kept thinking, all right, I thought as I watched that game, the Ravens they almost felt like they were entitled to win that game and they were going to the Super Bowl. They didn't play with that almost an underdog mentality. And you kind of have to go out there every game and feel like nobody thinks we're going to do this. Oh, we got to prove ourselves. It didn't feel like Baltimore felt that. It felt like, all right, we're at home. We'll win this game. We're going to the Super Bowl. Kind of like the Cowboys. When the Cowboys were talking about that, where, Dak Prescott's saying, oh, we got to get, Louis Vuitton for LV for Las Vegas. Got to get some LV luggage. Like, no. Don't do that. And I think going out there and proving yourself, nobody thought we would be here. And then playing like that, acting like that. I didn't get that from the Ravens. But I do think more attention will be on the Lions because it's the Lions getting that far and what that story could have been. And you were up 17 points. Yeah, Marv.
I did respect the Lions fans for coming out to Levi Stadium because you saw blue sprinkled all over the stadium.
Yeah.
I'm sure for a lot of them.
Well, it's once in a lifetime.
Exactly. Like legit. Eminem was out there, Barry Sanders, everyone. Hey, this might never, ever happen again in their lifetimes.
Yes, Paulie.
I just can't imagine that morning flight from San Francisco back to Detroit, though, because it's probably there's probably like a 7 a.m. flight today with 75% Lions fans and wearing your gear. You picked up a bunch of gear during the week.
Probably didn't sleep.
No sleep.
Yeah.
Just a plane full of depression and pretzels. Just, ugh.
Yeah.
God.
Start drinking early.
Oh, I'd be knee-deep in a Bloody Mary.
877-3DP Show. Email address dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle at DP Show. Say good morning. Those watching on Peacock. That's our streaming partner or listening on our radio affiliates. We're in 400 cities around America. So you have Mr. Irrelevant proving he's relevant. He's playing in the Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy. He's the third Mr. Irrelevant to play in the Super Bowl. Marty Moore is the first Mr. Irrelevant to win a Super Bowl. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He was a linebacker with the Patriots when they won the Super Bowl. Ryan Suckup, he was a Mr. Irrelevant as well. The first Mr. Irrelevant to start and win a Super Bowl, he did with the Buccaneers.
Stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. Here comes that
what?
Stat of the day.
I think we've asked the question before. If your last name's Suckup, would you change the pronunciation to Sukup?
At some point in the lineage?
Yeah. Suckup. You suck up. How many times do you think he heard that in school or the coach? Oh, okay, Mr. Suckup. Yes, you're speaking to me?
He is a total suck-up.
Yeah. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, whatever you accomplish in life is totally downgraded by your suck-up personality. So that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul?
Wasn't there a kicker a few years ago for Pittsburgh, Chris Blewett?
Yeah. Wasn't he West Virginia?
West Virginia, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Pitt or West Virginia, somewhere. That's one where you, like, Blue A or something. Put a tilde in there or an accent or something. Especially if you're a kicker.
Yeah. In there, golfer, Shank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a guy on tour now.
Shanks.
Shank. Yeah. All righty, some phone calls here. We'll talk to Louis Riddick, ESPN football analyst. He'll join us. Best and worst of the weekend. We will give you ours as well. Jason McCourty. Jason was doing the Ravens and the Chiefs on Westwood One Radio. He'll join us coming up as well. Mark in Myrtle Beach leads us off hour 2 on this Monday. Hi, Mark.
Good morning, Dan and the Danettes. How y'all doing this morning?
Great. Yep, great.
Yeah, my best and worst for the weekend, brother. It's, my best, well, that's my butt barking, but my best for the weekend was both of the best teams I think are going to be in the Super Bowl. And my worst was the whipping that the Celtics took at home to the Clippers, which was, I didn't see that coming. But, Dan, I just got something to tell Fritzy, who hasn't even seems like Fritzy's been calm this morning and hasn't said much, like he's a closet Detroit fan or something. But I got something for Fritzy about his kidney stones. I got something that can help him out if he's interested. It's called sodium bicarbonate. You can get it. It comes in 10 milligrams. You can get it at through Amazon or at any of your stores where pharmacies. And if he takes that like 6 of those 3 times a day, they get 2, 2, and 2. And I haven't had kidney stones. A doctor told me about this like 20 years ago, and I haven't had them.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark.
Sodium bicarbonate.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, we were waiting for that. We were waiting for that phone call today about your kidney stones. Thank God we got it.
I've been taking potassium citrate. I hope I'm on the right thing, but sodium bicarbonate.
Yeah, sodium bicarbonate. Yes. If you've ever had kidney stones, then anybody who offers advice, then you would certainly factor that into your.
Yeah, you don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want
really?
them again.
You don't want them.
You don't want kidney stones, and if you've had them where it took a procedure to get them out, you definitely don't want it
and
again.
You don't want like a sports hernia. Like there's a lot of things you don't want.
You don't want bowel resections. There's a lot of things you don't want.
Yes, Paul.
Is there an injury or affliction you would want? I can't see anyone aspiring to anything.
I don't know. Let me ask Todd. Is there anything that you would actually want?
Probably not.
Yeah,
I guess most you want to kind of feel good.
Yeah.
You don't want migraine headaches. You don't want polyps.
Like when somebody gets hit in a football game, and then they'll be like, oh man, that's got to hurt. Yeah, it's got to hurt playing football, or throw the interception. Oh, I'd like to have that one back. Really? You think he would? Like sometimes these things are obvious.
An occasional Charlie horse isn't terrible, but beyond that, you don't really want
Mo in Arizona. Hi, Mo. What's on your mind today?
Danettes. Man, let's boost up the morale around here, man. Just so excited, man. My worst of the weekend was the first half of that game. My best of the weekend was watching Jesus himself bounce that ball off that defender's face and drop it in Ayuk's hand, and I just knew we were going to win. All I can say is, Brock Purdy, man, you go, man. Keep doing what you're doing. He's a man.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Mo. I know Mo is a big Brock Purdy fan there. Terrible pass. Should have been picked off. Imagine if that thing's picked off. Like, we're giving him credit for that completion. That's Brandon Ayuk who, salvaged something out of there. I thought what Brock Purdy did really well was his ability to run, extend some plays, get some first downs there, because that was something that I'm sure Detroit did not factor in. Yes, Paul?
How would you describe Brock Purdy's running style?
I think Seton has a good description of Brock Purdy's running style.
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to have to, it's a little bit more of a visual thing, but he kind of looks like a little brother sometimes running out there. Like his little legs are running so fast and it's like, look at that little guy go.
Yeah. Sometimes you try to look like you're running hard, like fast.
Yeah.
You're not running fast, but you'll see this with little kids when they're going, man, I am fast.
Like, oh, there he goes. Look
Man.
at I can't catch him.
All
Oh, my
right.
God.
All right, look at that little guy. Those little legs.
Yeah. Like some people look like a gazelle when they're running, and you're like, wow, that's gorgeous. He was like, there he goes.
Yes. Yeah, Paul.
I enjoy so much when non-running quarterbacks run. Like, remember when Eli Manning would run? And it would just be like, what's he doing? And you're like, you think it's going to just fall apart like Forrest Gump with the braces on his legs? Things are just going to start flying all over. He looked like a giraffe running around the Serengeti.
Yeah. Well, when Brady would run too, like you'd just be lumbering there. And you're going, is this in slow motion? No. That's actual real speed. All right, more phone calls coming up. We'll check in with Louis Riddick. Always appreciate him and his analysis. The ESPN football analyst will join us coming up right after this. Take a break. Back after this Dan Patrick Show.
Be sure to catch the live edition of the Dan Patrick Show weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and the iHeartRadio app.
Paulie Fusco here with Tony Fusco.
Yo.
Of course, you know us as the host of the #1 rated show in all of sports talk, the Paulie and Tony Fusco Show.
Yeah.
Now, the suits at Fox Sports Radio gave us this airtime because they wanted us to tell you how great our show is.
Why?
Yeah, instead of us doing that, let's just let our millions of fans do the talking.
Yeah, play the tape.
You don't know crap about sports. I mean, why am I even on this crap?
Whoa. That's the wrong tape.
Wrong tape.
Just forget that. Look, listen to the Paulie and Tony Fusco Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, everybody, I'm Will Selva from NFL Network and Good Morning Football.
And I'm MJ Acosta Ruiz from the NFL Network, and we are back with a brand new season of El Huddle.
Que bueno, El Huddle is the only English-language original NFL podcast celebrating and recognizing their influences in the NFL while covering the most relevant stories with Latino voices and perspectives.
Each week, Will and I break down some of the biggest news stories and talk to the biggest names from around the game.
And speaking of games, each episode will highlight what stories, matchups, and strategies we're looking forward to in the upcoming week, and what questions are we asking each other, like, who's going to be our perro macho? How about Plátano Power?
Who had un poquito más? I love to see that. And what teams are going above and beyond?
What players do we need to see more from?
No fluency required. We got you. We're your tutors in Espanol.
Siempre.
All you need is a love of the game and la cultura.
Listen to El Huddle on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
More phone calls coming up. By the way, I'm looking at second half stats by the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't do anything. Nothing. And, maybe we saw that Baltimore defense we thought we were going to see, but give credit to Kansas City's defense because they went toe-to-toe and then some and shutting down the Ravens. Let's bring in Louis Riddick. He is part of the college football and NFL coverage there, ESPN NFL college football analyst and former Washington and Eagles director of pro personnel. Louis, thanks for joining us. Explain to me what the Chiefs' defense did to Lamar Jackson.
Well, I think it's kind of a twofold thing, Dan. I think first and foremost, early on, you could see that Steve Spagnuolo said, hey, look, we're going to try and make this a one-dimensional game, make this a passing game for you. So when you come out and you try to run the football early in the game, we're going to play some very, very tight up at the line, 8-man fronts. And our guys, our defensive line is going to fire off this ball. Our linebackers are coming downhill. And we're going to try and discourage you and try and get into the head of offensive coordinator Todd Monken and get you out of that thinking that you can run against us. Because if we can get you into a one-dimensional game, we'll take our chances you throwing the football. And he played right into that. Todd Monken and the offensive game plan played right into that. And that's when Spags had him exactly where he wanted him. Because from there, he unleashed the 5- and 6-man pressures. lots of man coverage in the back end, which they're very, very good at anyway. Chris Jones you start being able to time up the snap count. You start getting a rhythm as a pass rusher. You start getting a rhythm as far as what routes they're trying to throw. And Lamar never looked comfortable. So as soon as he got him out of thinking that they could run the football and stay two-dimensional, which was a mistake on their part, then they had him, because that is exactly what they wanted. That's what they wanted to do going in.
I'm wondering, as we move forward, just like we did with Nikola Jokic, he won back-to-back MVPs. And I think he lost the third one because we thought he's never done anything in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And it did factor in, I think, in the voting that he's going to be a three-time, back-to-back-to-back. And then Joel Embiid, who had a wonderful season. We saw what Joker did in the playoffs. He won the title. I wonder if we're going to do that with Lamar Jackson, that here he has 2 MVPs now, but he has very little postseason success. That do voters look at him differently? And I know the postseason doesn't factor in on the regular season voting, but is he going to be viewed differently that he won these MVPs but had nothing really to show for it in the postseason?
I don't think there's any question that it'll play a part, because they're human beings that are voting. People don't forget. And maybe that's part of the whole MVP voting process that maybe needs to be reevaluated, as far as, look, I think the people who are voting for MVP obviously understand that regular season and postseason success are totally different animals. And if you're really going to be considered one of the greats of all time, what do most people kind of use as the standard for that? It's what you do in the postseason, right? And so MVP is supposed to represent, as we move on through history, it's supposed to represent a significant achievement. You're the most valuable player, not during the regular season, but overall for your football team. You're supposed to be a guy who impacts winning at the highest level at the most crucial times. And so people are going to say, well, Lamar wasn't able to impact his football team and help lead them to wins at the most crucial of times. And that being the situation yesterday. Now, there's a number of different reasons why things didn't go the way they went yesterday. And some of that has to do with him. There's no doubt about that. A lot of it has to do also with, could they have been more balanced? Sure. Should you give a ton of credit to the Kansas City Chiefs defense? There is absolutely no question. But to get back to your question, for sure, Lamar knows this, you know this, I know this, we all know this. He will be judged based upon what he does in the postseason, the same way we're judging Dak Prescott, the same way we judge Josh Allen, and the same reason why we love Tom Brady, and why right now, well, not right now, when it's all said and done, we'll love Patrick Mahomes and put him at the very top.
Explain to me how Travis Kelce finds these openings.
I was tweeting about this yesterday, so I was kind of losing my mind about this. Okay, free access to guys like Travis Kelce, meaning you let them off the line of scrimmage and let them kind of work against. It's not really spot drop zone, meaning you just kind of run to a spot and look at the quarterback. It's more man match zone, meaning you match guys once they come into your zone. But nevertheless, he's too good to allow him to play positional basketball basically against you, especially when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who is on the same page as him, where you they kind of like to have this unspoken communication to where he knows where to move, slide, find zone voids. And Patrick is just so good at being able to determine and, well, first of all, move defenders where he wants them with his eyes, with pump fakes, ball feints, whatever you want to call them. And then they're able to just kind of pick you apart. Now, 2 of Travis's best catches yesterday were against man coverage situations where Patrick could only put it, like on the 4th down conversion, where he's rolling right, they have it shut down. And he comes back and he throws that high pass, that high deep crosser to Travis Kelce, where that's a Hall of Fame throw, a Hall of Fame catch by a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame tight end. And his first touchdown against Kyle Hamilton is also man coverage. So you're sitting there going, look, we have our best guy, Kyle Hamilton, first team All-Pro, on their best player, and he just won.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's nothing you can really do. But during the times when you can do something, like not allowing him free access, not allowing him to pick you apart against zone defense, that drives me nuts. And look, he's made a living off of that his entire career. And that's why now he's the most productive postseason pass catcher in the history of the NFL. Not by accident. He's good, but a lot of people have helped him get there in terms of poor defensive structure and game plan.
Talking to the Mothership's Louis Riddick, if you were in the Lions locker room at halftime, what would you be saying to your teammates, if anything?
Or, look, if I was on the team, I would be saying this: hey, look, we're dominating the line of scrimmage. We're literally knocking these guys senseless off the ball. Let's keep running it with Jameer and David. Let's keep trying to make sure we get it to Sam and get it to Amon-Ra. Jared, just be smart with the football. And defense, hey, look, we're going to make sure that Debo doesn't get loose. We're going to make sure that, that Brandon doesn't get behind us. And we'll be all right. We're going to be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. But you know what? I mean, what happens is Debo came out in that second half, and you could see the urgency he had. You could see how quickly he wanted to get moving. Brock started getting into a rhythm. They kick a field goal on the first drive. They come back. They stop him on that fourth down where it's 24-10, where Bosa gets a nice pass rush. Jarrett gets a little flustered. They throw it to Josh Reynolds. He drops it. Then they go down. They score. Then Jameer fumbles. Then they score again. And see, at that point, San Francisco starts thinking, this is what we were supposed to be doing all along. Detroit starts thinking, okay, well, that conversation that we just had in the locker room, all of a sudden that doubt starts creeping into your mind. As fans start going, you start realizing this is a pretty good football team they have over there. And you know what? Once your psyche starts to get fractured like that, it's just human nature, man, for some people to get tight. It's human nature for some people to start doing things that are out of character. And once you feel a certain rhythm coming for you where maybe you were doubting yourself initially and you start making some plays, all of a sudden you start feeling like, okay, here I go. And we've seen it we see it in youth sports. We see it in professional sports. I watch it with my 13-year-old son. He misses a few shots in the basketball game early. His shoulders are slumped, and I'm sitting there yelling at him from the stands, pick your head up. He hits a three-pointer. Next thing you know, he's flying up and down the court, and everything starts to roll. And that's how that game flipped.
But I'm looking at the Lions in the fourth down decisions. I know we focused on this a lot. They didn't go for it at the end of the first half. They went for it twice in the second half. Mm-hmm. But if this is week 5 of the NFL, it's different. This is a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I have to factor that in with the decisions that I make because there's sort of that pucker power that, you know what, these are big, big moments there. Yep. Your thoughts on Dan Campbell being Dan Campbell?
Yeah, look, and I've thought about this a lot because, look, I understand that Dan has taken the information, the win probabilities, the probabilities of success in those specific situations in terms of being able to convert, the probabilities in terms of how, how it affects, maybe the probability of them winning the football game. If he is to convert, what are the chances of convert? And look, he's done that all year long. And so he stayed true to who he is. And he has continued to try and be very aggressive because they've had a ridiculous amount of success being successful. I get it. So I get that part of it. I think sometimes, though, when you decide, okay, so if you're going to, in those situations, like let's just talk about Josh Reynolds in particular on the first one. All right. Yes, Bosa had a great pass rush, and it affected Jared Goff, and it was a little bit of an off-target throw. But you know what? If I'm going to go for it in those situations, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the play that I have dialed up, come hell or high water, I'm trying to get it to the guy who I know is going to be the most consistent playmaker for me because he has been in the past too. If I'm going to remain consistent in terms of my aggression, then 14 is getting that ball somehow, some way if I'm throwing it. Amon-Ra's the guy. He's not going to be a second or third option backside. He's the primary guy. And why wasn't he the guy? Why wasn't he the guy in that situation in particular? Because clearly Josh Reynolds was not able to rise to the occasion. It started getting in his head. And I know maybe Jared Goff was just playing out the play, and reading it out the way it's naturally supposed to be read out. But I'm telling you, if you're going to go ahead and be aggressive, then I'm definitely going to make sure it's about players over plays, and I'm getting it to my best people. And I don't know if they necessarily did that. And they're going to have to live with the results.
Yeah, you just wonder. It's set up as well as it possibly could for the Lions. That You had the Cowboys bow out. Tampa makes the playoffs. You don't worry about the Eagles. It just felt like, okay, you can beat San Francisco. Green Bay should have beaten San Francisco. And you're up 24-7. How do you how long does this one sting?
Oh, it'll sting. It'll sting forever, simply because there's no guarantee that they'll ever get back there, and he admitted that.
But is this 28-3 Falcons Patriots type of?
I mean, obviously that's. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's Super Bowl, but I mean, it still has that kind of lingering, like, heartbreaking effect. Look, I remember my very first year working for Philadelphia in 2008. We made it to the NFC Championship game against Kurt Warner and Arizona Cardinals down there in Arizona. And I remember thinking, man, we got all the way here. And when we lost that game, I remember that flight home. Like, I mean, I didn't play the game. I was a scout there, and I was up in the booth helping that day. But it felt just crushing. And we never got close to getting back to that. Mm-hmm. Andy never got close getting back to that until he got to Kansas City. So it could be years. It could be years before they get back there again. And it's and you know what? And I'll tell you what. And I know people, I've heard this morning people keep saying Detroit gave that game to San Francisco. San Francisco didn't win it. Detroit lost it. Well, you know what? Okay. I saw Brock Purdy make some very special plays. I saw all of a sudden Nick Bosa making some very special plays. I saw Fred Warner making some very special plays that it wasn't just Detroit giving it to him. They took it. And I think that's what makes this game and as beautiful as it is and what makes it as heartbreaking as it is because when you're that close and you know that every single situation, every single decision will go down in history as far as whether or not you made it to a game like the Super Bowl or you were just a couple plays away, man, that's hard. That's hard to stomach. And I don't necessarily think teams necessarily lose games like that. I think it's more about, players making plays in crucial situations that really are able to rise to those moments. And you saw some guys rise to those moments yesterday and some guys not be able to rise to those moments. And I really think that's I think we're kind of cheating San Francisco to say they should have lost to Green Bay or they should have lost yesterday.
Yeah.
No, in the biggest of moments, which is how we judge the great players who play this sport, guys like Brock Purdy made plays, Brandon Ayuk made plays, Nick Bosa made plays, Fred Warner made the plays. Tayshaun Gibson, he stripped Jahmyr Gibbs because he's been coached to do that. And in the most crucial moments, he made the play and Jahmyr didn't secure the football. That's what separates in those moments, man. And that's what's it was high drama yesterday. And all of that together, it's got to be crushing for Detroit. Crushing.
Good to talk to you, Louis. Hopefully we'll see you in Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. I'll see you there.
That's Louis Riddick, ESPN NFL college football analyst. I don't think Louis made it any better for Lions fans there. Rob in Iowa. Hi, Rob. What's on your mind?
Hey, Dan. Let's see here. 5'10", 255. And I just wanted to give my best and worst first. Best of the weekend. I'm a Niners fan as well as Marvin, and I enjoyed the win, of course, to get us to the Super Bowl. And I've been looking for a rematch with KC for, I wanted to see another rematch with KC, so good to see that. My worst is them keeping the blood pressure up. Man, that first half was brutal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Second half for the opposing fan base. Thanks for your best and worst of the weekend. Bruce in Alaska. Hey, Bruce, what's on your mind?
Hey, Dan. For the life of me, I think you've forgotten some stuff, my friend. There's no way on God's green earth that Bart Starr and Johnny Yu were game managers. Okay, huge differences. They were going up to the line and whatnot. They were calling their own plays with a target on their back. They got the snot knocked out of them.
But that's the part that they managed the game because they were able to call plays. They managed the game. Why is this a negative? They're Hall of Famers. They managed a game. They had Lombardi. He had Lombardi as his coach. You can't go willy-nilly with Lombardi. They ran the ball. They were known for running the ball. Like, he managed the game. It's not a negative, Bruce.
I'm not saying it's a negative. It's a fine point in semantics there. They were going up and they were writing the music. These guys today, they have the sheet music provided them by a staff of coaches and all this technology. They don't process all the stuff the same way. So it's just a matter of semantics, Dan.
Do you think that Bart Starr was a game manager?
No.
Oh my God.
I think Bart Starr was Mozart. He went up and he created.
Okay. All right. Peyton Manning created when he went to the line. Bart Starr didn't create. Bart Starr, they were known for their running game. Lombardi famous for his running game. Paul Hornung, Jim Taylor, that's what they did. Now, in the Super Bowl, certainly against Kansas City, Bart threw a couple of touchdown passes. But they weren't. Game manager is not a negative, folks. It means you understand. Yes, Paul.
If you go back and look at Bart Starr and Johnny Unitas' stats, nobody had 4,000 yards and 30 touchdown season. Nobody. There was no such thing. This is pre-Joe Namath, pre-Dan Fouts, all this stuff. But guys like Bart Starr were having seasons with 14 touchdowns and only 3 picks and 2,200 yards. And they ran, like you said, much more than they passed.
Yes.
But he mastered the passing game in small doses.
He knew what to do and when to do it. That's all. Game manager means you don't have talent. That's how people are taking this. If I say that Tom Brady managed a game, that's the greatest quarterback of all time, right? It shouldn't be a negative. There are guys who don't manage a game. I always thought Michael Vick didn't manage the game. And it was to his detriment. Josh Allen sometimes doesn't manage the game. Certainly early in his career, he didn't. It's just understanding what to do, when to do it. Lamar Jackson didn't manage the game well at all yesterday, right? Didn't. Last interception, triple coverage. Brock Purdy, second half. He managed the game really well, ran the ball. Making a play when you need to make a play. It's not a negative, folks. But certainly when it's coming from me, it's not. Take a break. We'll give you our best and worst of the weekend after this.
Fox Sports Radio has the best sports talk lineup in the nation. Catch all of our shows at foxsportsradio.com. And within the iHeartRadio app, search FSR to listen live.
Hey, everybody. I'm Will Selva from NFL Network and Good Morning Football.
And I'm MJ Acosta Ruiz from the NFL Network, and we are back with a brand new season of El Huddle.
Que bueno, El Huddle is the only English-language original NFL podcast celebrating and recognizing their influences in the NFL while covering the most relevant stories with Latino voices and perspectives.
Each week, Will and I break down some of the biggest news stories and talk to the biggest names from around the game.
And speaking of games, each episode will highlight what stories, matchups, and strategies we're looking forward to in the upcoming week, and what questions are we asking each other, like, who's going to be our perro macho? How about Plátano Power?
Who had un poquito más? I love to see that. And what teams are going above and beyond?
What players do we need to see more from?
No fluency required. We got you. We're your tutors in Español. All you need is a love of the game and la cultura.
Listen to El Huddle on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Best and worst of the weekend. We'll take a spin around the infield here. Todd, I'll go with you first.
Best of the weekend, Friday night at the Hawks. The Mavs' Luka Doncic scored 73 points along with 10 boards and 7 assists. Dallas wins 148-143 over Atlanta. Worst of the weekend, staying in the NBA, another road performance Friday night. Devin Booker, the Suns, 62 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks, but Phoenix loses at Indiana, 133-131. Booker had a chance to win at the buzzer, lost his footing, shot an air ball at the end.
I'm watching the Luka game, and he's one of those guys that you don't know how many points he has because it seems just sort of in the flow of the game, rhythm of the game. Like Kawhi would be like that. You go, how many's he got? And then, they're going into halftime, and what did he have, 41? And I go, wait a minute. He's got, and I check the box score. And then all of a sudden, he ran out of gas, and then they started double-teaming him, triple-teaming him. Finally got around to that. I think if they had just played man on him, he would have scored 80 at least. He was. He only took 33 shots. Yeah, Paulie.
Yeah, he was 25 of 33 from the floor, 8 of 13 from 3, 15 of 16 from the line. Even had 7 assists.
Yeah.
A little follow up on that. Do you think the anniversary of Kobe Bryant morphed into it a little bit? Like at halftime, he said he was aware of it, the 81 game. And I wonder he said the second half, I'm going to...
Yeah, but guys are aware of Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point every year, and nobody goes, I think I'm going to go for 100.
Almost like he stumbled into the first half, and then he kind of focused on it.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. Yes, Eden.
The only difference being that people grew up watching Kobe, and he was like a hero,
Yeah.
Wilt is a picture.
Yeah. But they all take that picture after they put up those big numbers. Yes, Eden. Best and worst of the weekend, Eden.
My best of the weekend, Dan Campbell. Dude, he believed in his team and went down doing things that way. I'll always back that 100%. My worst of the weekend, people saying that's what cost them the game. I completely disagree with that. But my even more worster of the weekend, which could be a best, Draymond Green is back and better than ever.
Yeah, great.
He just so happened to have I was just swiping at the ball, and it just so happened to hit that guy in the face. What do you want me to do about it?
Of course.
That lasted long.
Yeah, Paulie.
Well, you can't go cold turkey. If you're weaning off something.
Got to ease back in.
Yeah.
Just
pop a few guys.
Yeah. I didn't knock him out. Come on. Paulie, best and worst of the weekend?
Dan, like a senator, I'm going to yield the floor for my best and worst. It was something pithy about a Division III game anyway. I'm going to give it to our guy, our young producer, Picture Day Ray, who is a Lions fan. I'd like to bring him in to give him the floor.
Oh, all right. Here's Ray, who's the producer on Dan Patrick Takes a Gamble, a longtime diehard Lions fan, emphasis on die. And Ray, best and worst of the weekend.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, Ray.
So, worst of the weekend, there's a lot of places where I could start. Gibbs' fumble was tough. The missed interception was tough. But the worst, Dan, was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. 6 minutes left to play in the second quarter. We're up 27. He's waving goodbye to the 49ers crowd as if we already won the game. That one was tough for me to see. Best of the weekend, there's no best of the weekend for me here. I've been waiting for this for 25 years, and my hopes and dreams were crushed from one bad half of football.
Did you cry yesterday?
I came close, and like he's talked about before the show, I did almost call out today. But I figured every day's the Super Bowl, have to be here.
Not for the
not for us. Yeah. So it's been tough. It's been tough.
And you also bet the Lions money line.
Yeah, that was so I did my biggest bet of my life was Lions +7 and Lions money line. I was able to get the 7, but yeah, they got me with the
Are you okay?
Nah, I had some popcorn. It stuck in my throat.
That's
popcorn.
a good way to prepare for your big segment, bud.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well done, lad.
But it's just not a good day, Dan. It's not a good day.
All right. Well, thank you, Ray. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Marvin, best and worst of the weekend?
I don't know if I can top that. LeBron James, 36 points, 20 rebounds, 12 assists, and a double OT win. Other best of the weekend, I watched Griselda on Netflix with Sofia Vergara. Griselda's the drug queen pin in the 1980s. Phenomenal. They tried to ugly her up, and it didn't work.
So Sofia Vergara still looks great.
Yeah, she was so good in it.
Okay.
I stayed up until about 1 a.m. watching all 6 episodes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Maybe I'll give it a spin there. Sofia Vergara. Final hour on the way. We will talk to Jason McCourty, NFL Network, former defensive back. He was on the call for the Ravens and the Chiefs. More of your phone calls as well.
Hey, everybody, I'm Will Selva from NFL Network and Good Morning Football.
And I'm MJ Acosta Ruiz from the NFL Network, and we are back with a brand new season of El Huddle. Each week, Will and I break down some of the biggest news stories and talk to the biggest names from around the game.
Each episode will highlight what stories, matchups, strategies we're looking forward to in the upcoming week.
No fluency required. We got you. We're your tutors en español. All you need is a love of the game and la cultura.
Listen to El Huddle on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.